Another movie topic that I didn't go see it, but I felt some type of way about it, and it's The Woman King.
Oh, I
Well,
went to see that. I
I
went to see
can't
that
wait to
last
see
week.
that.
I
I
went to see that last week. Why? Well, you don't like that movie, Isaac?
the
What?
reason why. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you
Okay.
why.
Okay,
I'm,
go ahead,
I'm
babe.
gonna tell you why. I'm sorry. Okay, cause like Peep Game, right? Y'all notice when Chloe came out to do the Little Mermaid, there was an uprising from the white feminist community and from most women. Oh
Yep.
my God, you can't be a black. Ariel's not
You
black.
cannot be a black mermaid.
And then I noticed with the whole Star Wars movie, and then I also noticed with the Game of Thrones House of Dragon with the brother, it was the Game of Thrones fans that was watching, okay, you can do flying dragons, but a wealthy, rich black guy in the 15th century is unrealistic to you.
You're
I,
right, but they ain't heard of Mansa Musa.
yeah, but what exactly? But one thing that kind of messes me up about the Woman King, especially looking at the Little Mermaid, I'm contrasting those two because I just noticed that okay, America or like they don't want Black American females, little girls, to see themselves as dainty songstresses, as softer in that way. However, when I look at the Woman King and Black Panther, it's just kind of like, well, okay, the same people who 3 million like dumbs down like a black person becoming the Little Mermaid doesn't care that you're being also perpetuated as these very masculine, strong-looking women,
Because
because
that's all they can handle us in. They don't see us,
yeah,
period, across the board as dainty,
Just
as
look back
soft,
into
and
slavery
and
as
days and how they described us in the slavery days, you
and that
know?
and that's why that movie, when I saw the
Mhm.
preview, it rubbed me the wrong way because I'm looking like,
But
well,
it's an
but see, I
awesome
take it
movie.
differently.
It's an awesome
I'm
movie,
gonna throw
though,
a different
y'all.
take on it.
go ahead.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm
It's
gonna throw a different
incredible.
take.
It's incredible, y'all.
I'm seeing, where we've always seen the white patriarchal system, but here we have this strong, intelligent, fierce warrior
It was so
sister
nice to see us so strong. I'm sorry. That movie
where we are
is
leaders,
everything. That movie is
and they
everything.
are, and yeah, she's not the most feminine, but even in the previews, I don't know, there was something that resonated, like when I seen that they were about to give her, make her the king, where
Well, you
she
know
just
what?
kind of, I seen some of her feminine, to me, I saw some feminism in there, like, well, damn, I
But you know what I liked from you know what? Okay, so I went to see this with a homegirl, right?
Hmm.
And being that I come from an era where there was a lot of gangs and whoop whoop out there. I used to fight a lot. I used to do this, do that, and that. And I was like, man, I could have been on the damn team. I could have been, I used to fight a lot. I could see myself being out there with an axe, with a saw, with a sword, with doing all these acrobatic skills and killing men. And I saw myself as somebody who could have possibly been in that position had I been in that day and time. And a lot of
yeah,
the
I would
women,
have went out with that. I would have went out and fought too, but I would have been in the war room. I'd have been more
but see,
strategic.
the thing about it is, you wouldn't have even been there if you were wanted, and that's the thing
Yeah.
about the woman king. The women warriors, they were not wanted, and a lot of them didn't want to be wanted. Like the young girl who was 19, her father kept trying to marry her off to these old
Uh-huh.
ass men who, I mean, okay, the one scene where, you know what I'm talking about, the youngest girl with the short hair, when her father tried to get her to marry this older gentleman, older guy, and the guy right in front of her father and her mother snatched her up, grabbed her around her, just smacked her, and was just beating on her ass. You're gonna be my wife, and you're gonna do this, and you're not gonna talk back, and you're not gonna.
Still happens.
It's like, even trying to impress me?
It's happening
Yeah,
right
like,
now.
She
Yeah,
said, okay, let me go over here.
and I heard about stuff like that, and see, that's like for me, it's just like it. It doesn't bother me seeing Black American women, in particular, be in positions of power, but at the same time, I kind of see. I just see it as a chess move that white feminists are playing off of that whole thing, because it's like, think about it, the writers are all white women, the director is biracial, is a biracial Black woman, so the words from, what's her name, Maria Diamo, forgot her name. How do you as white women watch Braveheart, a movie with that's very patriarchal,
oh
very
yeah.
much white male killing other white men in battle, and you think that, her words not mine, gee, how come there isn't a movie with women like this? Well, hold on. What happened to this whole white feminists? Oh, I am woman, hear me roar, and all of that. So, how come you, when you were watching the men of your genophenotype being brave, how come you didn't take that time then as white women to show yourselves being just as strong against the men of your peers? How do you watch white men in Braveheart and think Black women in Die Homie, unless you do see Black women as just as masculine as you see white men on the battlefield?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I whooped many niggas in my days. And I see why a lot of women, like when we really truly learn the history, like there's a lot of things that we do not know about the motherland. Like I did not, some of y'all might have known, but I did not know that there was this force of women who were unable to be married or unable to have kids, or they was just disrespectful to their husbands, and they fathers or their husbands just dragged them off to the king. They take her, you can have her, put her on the your fighting team or what, your warrior team or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know about our history all the way back to Africa. I mean, the things that I learned from just watching this movie, we know about the slave trade, we know about a lot of things like that. But even in that movie, there were some things that I picked up that I did not know.
Now,
And
did you know that this story is partially based on a true story?
yes, it is based on a true story. That's what a lot
Loo-
of
There
people think.
are women
loose,
warriors.
loosely based off of
It's based on a true story though, because there were women warriors back
yeah,
in the
but
day,
And a
but
woman king. There was a woman
and
king.
there was a
but
woman
but
king.
the day homie, I knew about the day homie years ago when I was, called myself trying to be a Christian and a Hebrew Israelite. I
Mm-hmm.
studied about the day homie. The only issue that I have with that too, they're painting the homies as if they were the persons who were trying to prevent slavery. History is so far from everybody, not just
But
white.
see, they actually were participating in slavery, and then I think they kind of played it off like, okay, we're losing. Our country is
See,
going to
I
be
think
But
isolate.
that,
Our country is going to be obsolete if we keep on selling everybody.
yeah, but that's the thing. But when you listen to people from, because I have friends that are from Benin and from the continent and lived in other countries, that's not how that happened. Matter of fact, the Dahomey Empire, and I believe in the early 18th century, don't take my word
mhm,
for it, they were writing letters to the British Empire so they could continue slavery when they were stopping. Like that, my issue is that with that too, it's
But
like,
that could happen. I could see that happening.
yeah,
Like
my
if
thing is
like
don't.
because they did say if they stop the slave trade. Remember what the white man said? He said if you stop the slave trade, you guys are not going to have anything. I do recall him saying that in there, and they was like, "Fuck it, we gonna
Yeah, that's my thing, because here's the thing: if those of us who are, regardless of being connected to the lane here through indigenous blood,
mm,
those of us who do have African blood, 20% of us come from Benin, West Africa, Nigeria. So
yep.
it's a problem for me as a Black American when you're painting the See, oppression is oppression. I don't give a damn. I'm not gonna give a fuck if you look like me or not. If you sold me into slavery, you're a slaver. If
Right.
you, my problem is that with that is that I have no problem showing the imagery, but don't paint. That's like you're doing a civil rights movie, and Ulysses Grant is the war hero of the Yankees. Like, don't sit here and show me the people who were for slavery just because they look like me and you paint them in a fabulous light. I had a big issue with that off the bat because the people of Dahomey, and it was by for. Oh, and if you listen to the records of the European men that are telling you, they were getting their ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad thing when you have 10,000. Yeah, you have 10,000 female soldiers, but you're going up against the French in a skirmish with 3,000. How come 5,000 of your warriors are being killed and wounded, but only 1,500 of the French is wounded and killed?
Well,
It
see,
was.
what I think
I
with this
just
movie,
it's I'm sorry. It's just hard for me to. It's like one of those things where it's like, well, these women were forced, and that's another thing. It's kind of like what happens in America
you
today.
either
Well,
they were forced to either fight, or basically if you didn't want to fight
you
because
would.
your family didn't want you, because you was unmarriageable or whatever, then you would die. You basically, they would kill you off. But what I think was, I think this was a certain time of period where this really did happen. It might not happened over decades or centuries, or I think this was one place and time where they needed warriors, and these women who men didn't want to marry, or they couldn't have kids or whatever, they families could sell them off. They were no use for them, and the only use they had was for the king to, be not owned by the
And
king.
I'm
Basically,
gonna rebut kind of
fight,
what I
fight
said,
for the
where
king.
he has.
It was just a certain time and period that it happened. So I'm sure you're probably right where you said, okay, later down the line they were back in the slave trading or whatever. But I think for a moment in time, this really was truth. I mean, there is history of this stuff. There is records and documentations of this stuff
But
that there
what I'm saying,
that
what I
there
wanted to,
female
what I
warriors.
wanted to kind of go kind of disagree what I think about. Well, not necessarily disagree, but you said you find it hard to believe that these women cut down these British soldiers that was getting their ass
Oh, I
kicked.
believe they was. I mean, I was cutting down niggas in the
But think
80s
about,
and
but
90s.
no,
God
no,
knows
no.
I was. And I didn't look like them. I wasn't working out 12 hours a day.
But think about it. They were thinking as men, and
Mhm.
these women were going out there not only skilled warriors, but they were
And how
going. Some of them were going out
they
there,
were training like men. They
but some of them were going out there with feminine wiles too. They
mm-hmm.
laying in bed with them, getting their secrets, killing them in their sleep, all kind of shit like that. So that may be how they were able to cut down some of these armies
Mm-hmm.
because they used everything they had.
But see, the thing about it was a lot of those armies back then also, they didn't train like the women. Those women trained day and night, night and day, day and night. And I mean, they literally like, okay, so the story about them actually have to go through thorns. Like they have to go through thorn bushes. And if you couldn't get through the thorn bushes, you was automatically eliminated. Like they skinned, they was peeled, they was bleeding, they were, I mean, all this kind of stuff. That stuff really did happen. Like there's history, there's documentation of this shit.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that for centuries and centuries they had this woman group of people who fought, but I do believe that for a certain period of time they did have these woman warriors, they did have this woman king.
no, they did,
They
but
still
it's
went
not in
back
the
to doing slavery and everything, but
but
it was
it's not in the context of how they. That's what I'm saying. It's a gross misrepresentation of context. I'm not denying there is history of everything that you're saying, but in the context, if you didn't research or read anything on the Dahomey, if you watch, I fear for people to watch that movie who didn't do no research, because you're going to walk out thinking that the Dahomey were the heroes of the movie, and all around history being recorded from every group of people, they're going to tell you, what's his name? Neil Hirschman, who's a Black American, will tell you he got here due to the invasion of the Dahomey, of the Woman King, of the women warriors that were going to nearby villages. Because see, the thing about the Dahomey tribe, they weren't gangster with European tribes. No, they were only gangster with other neighboring African tribes.
And they show that during the movie, and I think I think a
But,
lot of people might be blowing it out of context, actually,
hmm, I,
because the story, and I guess you just have to watch it. I mean,
I'm not gonna spend no
the
money.
story is okay. One day it's gonna come. One day it's gonna become free. You
Right.
might be able to watch it on Netflix, Hulu, or not
Yes, I
free,
will.
you know what I mean. But one day you might be able to watch it not at the movies. But from what I got from the movie was at this time in history did happen. Basically, what they are just showing is that there was strong women back there. There was strong Black women warriors. There were women back there who defeated men armies, and that's what I got from the movie. I mean, you could go left, you can go right, and say, "Oh, but
Right.
they did end up staying in the slave trade later down the line." But what they are focusing on is just there were female women warriors out there who fought men, who defeated men for their kingdom. That's what I got out the movie. But I really think that's all they're trying to focus on. But again, if you didn't watch it, it's kind of like if you didn't watch Dahmer, you're like, well, I don't understand why they showing Dahmer again. We didn't already show it 5, 4, 5 times. What else do they need to tell us? Like, unless you watch Dahmer.
Yeah, but see the difference between, I can watch Dahmer over Woman King because it's not a complete gross opposite of what happened. Like what
But
happened
you
with,
gotta understand though, Isaac, every movie, every series, mini series, document, anything, it'll tell you in the beginning that everything in here did not. How do they say it? Like a lot of the some of the story might be exaggerated,
fictionalized.
yeah,
fictionalized.
but
You know
the,
what I'm
Loosely
saying? So
based.
yeah,
They
but
say
loosely
loosely
based.
based.
So even the Dahmer story, they tell you a lot of this is fictionalized, loosely based, because they have to make it entertaining. They can't just go in there and be like, oh, he killed him, he killed him, he killed. They have to make, and that's what anything we watch, even the most truest stories, they still say part of this is fictionalized, part of this is exaggerated, part of this is, you know what I mean?
and I do get that. I do. I really do get that. But it's just when it comes to, I mean, but the thing when it comes to Black stories, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther, it's all of the stuff that we get from like stories. It's tied to what happened in history with some form of oppression, with
Yeah.
some form of. So it's different for us. It's not like we can. It's not like we're getting stories like She-Hulk and
Mm-hmm.
Thor, to where no, everything that you get from Black Panther to Wakanda to the Woman King is supposed to be allegedly based off of what happened
Mm-hmm.
in history. And my thing is just that it's just for me, and I don't know, everybody's not gonna feel that way. And I'm not telling people they're wrong for not
Well,
having
that's
it.
okay. That's what the hood table is all about. Should we
It
might,
it it
you
it,
know?
it, it just kind of and it just rubbed me the wrong way. And then look again. When I look at it, I'm like, okay, how much, what are white women saying to us how they see y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my thing too. It's just like they don't want you to be mermaids, but at the same time, white women are creating movies based off of seeing white men be warriors, and instead of being the feminist, I am woman, hear me roar, they take a story of your history and over fictionalize it to tell a story. See, because I wouldn't trip like all of the action. I want to see the movie, to be honest, because I love black women. I
I
love.
would really, you know what, Isaac? Listen, I know
I'm
you.
gonna be
I would
honest.
really
I
want
don't
to
want to
watch
be
it.
no mermaid
I
because I
would love
can't fucking
to watch
swim.
it and
I'd
come back.
rather be I'd rather my kids see something of themselves, fighting back, fighting for something instead of this
No, I
bullshit
would
we
love to
see
have
out
this
here on the
conversation
street.
with Isaac.
And I would rather have my kids to see
Mm,
somebody somewhere in their history that somebody fought back, that they wasn't just slaves and singing songs and skipping around in the fucking fields and
Yeah,
shit.
because
That
I don't even think
true.
that the woman kings or the woman warriors, I don't even think that they were a everlasting thing. You know what I mean? Like back then
it
in
wasn't,
those
and but see,
times
but
with the
then again,
slave
it's
virgin,
also on to the parents too to teach. Like my daddy, it was on my daddy to teach me all of this stuff. And just like I teach my kids and I show them and I make sure we go to museums and we read books and we watch documentaries. Now we speaking on factual stuff, and he was saying, Isaac was saying, I'd rather not watch that. I get it. How about we have our kids watch something? We hear about the discrimination that black soldiers felt during World War I, World War II.
but see, my
Has
thing is,
anybody ever heard of the Harlem Hellcats?
to honestly give an opinion about something, I feel like you have to watch it. Like, there's been movies when I'm like, I ain't watching that shit. Da, 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 da. You know, movies of the past that has nothing to do with black people. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I can't really give an honest opinion about it until I watch it. But I really would love for Ice to watch it. I mean, I know you probably don't really want to, but maybe one day you'll watch it. And I would love to talk to you about it then and see what your thoughts. But I really think that when it comes to the slave trading days, that a lot of the people who were, I really do believe, like in the movie, that a lot of the kingdoms in the movie, because Africa was like little kingdoms here and there,
Yeah,
and
it's
they
multiple
they
countries,
really
multiple
were
tribes.
like working with the white people, because it was either like they kidnap you and they capture you, or you help them capture other black people, and
Well, they
then
was doing
it
it
was
because
like
they
they
were they
learned
were
like
a lot of them were profiting, and they were it wasn't necessarily they were selling off people that they liked. They selling off their enemies. They selling off
right,
people that's
but they were
useless to
selling
them.
off people that they were selling off people that were even in their community, because they knew it was like, okay, how do we survive this situation? But then when these other tribes was coming in kidnapping people from their tribes, they're like, fuck this, we gotta fight these people. So they weren't fighting the white people, they were fighting other black people who were
Hmm.
kidnapping them. That's what the
Because
movie is
it
about.
wasn't,
It's like
but
okay,
it
we
wasn't
understand the white
profiting them
people are
the white people were giving them stuff. They would give just
the
like the
white people
Indians,
were yeah, the white people were giving them stuff, but it was
giving
like
them
the
trinkets and
woman
shiny shit.
warriors. The woman warriors, they were fighting other tribes who were kidnapping them and selling them to the white people. So it wasn't like, and I think I think in the end that it could have came to pass where the white people. I mean, you saw how the white people, they was getting them at every corner, every angle of Africa. They was high, low, mid, west, east, south. It got to
Uh-huh.
the point where they was getting them from every area in Africa.
Right.
They was just stealing them and kidnapping them. So I do believe that the woman warriors didn't last forever. I just think they're just focusing on a certain part in time to show you how strong these women were at this time to fight for their people. So I see where you coming from, Isaac, as well. Like, okay, but they still, and then the white people was trading and what. But I think the movie is just focusing on these women who are real life ladies who actually fought for their community, fought for their kingdom to keep their people from being enslaved. And that movie is, I'm telling you, that movie is off the motherfucking chain, especially in the end. Especially in the end. When they tried to get, when they were getting their people away from that other black tribe that had stolen all their people, was selling them, and they were literally about to board the ships. That ending is everything. So yeah, I don't think it was like literally a movie about a whole time area. I think it was like they just showing, okay, these women kings, they were there. They are real. This is what they did in the moment that they did it. But it's like everything. Like if you're a woman, if you're a small girl, if you black, you will love it. It's like
You can get empowered. It can be.
you can definitely get empowered from
Yeah,
it. Like I said, when I was watching the movie, I was whispering to my homegirl, "Oh, that could have been me. I was out there. I was busting niggas in the head when I was younger. Shit, I was fighting niggas. I mean, I got a scar right here on my damn hand. That scar going up and down from whooping a nigga way back in the day, like my teeth marks and everything. Boy, I used to whoop a nigga up. But you know, I was like, damn, I could have been like one of the
You could have been on the set. I mean,
like, yeah, you know.
here's the thing though too, because I'm not. It's not like because I do enjoy seeing female athleticism. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? I really
they were
do.
like, ugh.
It's not like a because I don't think that masculinize a woman because she displays physical prowessness. I'm not thinking that at all. But and for me that's the part where I would be excited to see because I am a big Marvel DC comic book anime type of guy and I play video games too and a lot of times the characters that I fuck people up with on the fighting games are the female characters at that, right? And that's where like for me it's just like okay I have the appreciation for the cinematography because those are some beautiful black women like don't like I'm not gonna lie looking at the presentation of
That
it
tall African lady. I didn't
is
heard a lot of negative comments about her, but every time I see her, I see beauty.
yeah
I see
I see
beauty.
the beauty in the presentation of the
Mhm.
different phenotypes of beautiful melanated women on there and I wish they could have kept the movie just about the imagery. I just wish it wasn't the tone of it's being presented to everyone like this is history. And that's where for me it's just because I'm into like a lot of history to where I was just like, okay, you could
And
have
see, that's why I
presented.
said I see what you're saying because I don't think this was tech like history, like oh, this happened for millions of years. I think this was a certain moment in time where they had these female armies and they fought, and it was just during that certain amount of time. But still, in the end, it still is history, you know.
mm, I, it's just it's hard for me. It's
We don't have
revisit.
to agree to disagree on this one, Isaac.
Yeah, we will. It's revisit. I believe it's revisited history. I
But I
don't.
still want you to watch the movie, Isaac.
I'm a watch. I
he
am.
gonna watch it. He just ain't gonna pay for it.
I'm just not gonna pay. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just
we
not.
gonna get you the bootleg version, Isaac. We gonna get you the
That's
bootleg.
fine. I'll watch it online. I'll wait for it to come out. I just can't. Just as for a person who studies history and religion and stuff like that, I'm just
I
like,
understand.
and I have friends too that are from Benin, and I've heard firsthand stories of how terrorizing it was for them to deal with the Dahomey versus what you're being shown who they are
Yeah,
as heroes. You see what I'm saying? It's just,
yeah.
and I might be a little bit more personally attached, but that's because I have friends that are from, they're like my brothers and sisters to me. They're from the continent, and you listen to their parents and grandparents and what they tell
I
you. What
get
it,
it. I understand.
eh.
I get it. I
But
get it.
but neither here that I wish that that black women they would embrace both images, like both sides of femininity, like the
Mhm.
strength, the beauty of your femininity isn't just in the toughness and what you've had to endure. There's also a lot of intelligence there. There's also a lot of nurturing that required innovative thinking. There are a lot of
Right.
sides to the strength of who you are as women that I can see that for other races of women, you know what I mean? They show that, and it's like the way that they did She-Hulk. They
Hmm.
kept her so much. They they catered more to the delicacy of her femininity in She-Hulk in ways that I have not seen them do in Black Panther, and from what I can see was presented in The Woman King. Like I could watch the whole series of She-Hulk, and I saw that it never once came across as her strength is only in her femininity is not only because she's this Hulk, and even when she was this Hulk, which was a strong. Because I'm not talking about being dainty and fluffy and shit like that. When I say that, I mean it's a different balance that they gave her dimension as a female character when they're white female characters, even when they're fierce and fighters. It's a different nuance that they use in presenting that presentation to you versus when it's you're the heroine. That's one thing I noticed.
I got you.
And I'm shut the
And I
fuck up
certainly
on.
understand.
And I'm gonna go, but I am going to go check it out. I'm definitely gonna go check it out when it comes out because it's one thing I have said before, and it is the truth.
Well, what
When
do you think about Divine's comment in the chat? Said I've seen 5 different history books from school from '99 to 2000. They change every 4 years.
But that's
absolutely,
because history is always changing,
well, it's it
and
what people are.
and people are all and they're I'm sorry, and they're always putting out new information. They're finally starting to come out with the truth, not
That's
just
why I said
his,
a lot. Even with the
not
daughter
just
story, I
his
feel
story.
like we is a lot of stuff that we still don't know. Like
I
that's how I
mean, but
feel
I'm
in
saying
history.
as far as history, it's not just his story anymore. They're coming
Right.
out with the real stories
His
now.
story, her story, their
Their
story,
story,
our
but you
story.
know one thing I will say, the part of me too that it is not about the. It's just too optimistic. It's around politics time. It's time to
Yeah.
start voting, and now so think about that. So now we
That's what I
want
was telling Tanya about
well,
this law that they
With
done
the
put about
marijuana.
with
yeah,
the
but
marijuana.
but also think about it with Woman King. Okay, so now we want white white America's gonna go see that you like watching movies or support something that yes you're happy in the strength but you're also I'm just gonna left for just 1 second. It's
Say
just
white guilt.
well, it's not just that, but think about it. You're shown when this movie comes out, like Woman King, that's a nuance for them to say, "Well, see, we told y'all that you enslaved each other without using specificity of country, tribe, etc." Because every single person's not from West Africa. 20% of us are that are here, but not every single person is West African. But my point is just to say that yes, this movie does lay the groundwork for them to see well, you can't get reparations because well, y'all are out here glorifying being, y'all are saying y'all are accepting the argument of Africans selling other Africans. I just think it's too optimistic that you're gonna show a movie. Now we're talking about reparations, but this very movie is showing you more, like
Thank you,
what y'all
Divine
said.
Wisdom. Good
It's
night.
showing you more of black people fighting against other tribes, and I think it's just going to be used as a talking point for when it comes for politics. It's
Oh,
going to
you
be
know somebody gonna use that. Somebody is.
somebody's going to use that. I mean, because I've already thought about it. Because I always think about if I
Herschel
was
Walker is going to use it.
yeah, they're gonna use that. And I'm not saying that's the reason not to watch the movie, but I just see it's just so opportunistic that, and that's being put out at the very moment when we're really about to get back into voting and it's getting
Yeah,
time.
we really about to get. And speaking of voting, you guys, please,
Nothing changes
please,
until you go to the ballot.
our people for hundreds and hundreds of years
That's
for
where they
our
kill
right
you
to
at, is
vote.
the
So
ballot.
please make
That
sure,
is,
make sure
I
you
say
get
those that
out
don't
there.
vote can't say shit.
True.
The
Those
people
that
who did
don't
not
vote
order
can't
those
say shit.
early ballots that come to your crib and you can just vote. I mean, if you got to get out there in the streets, whether it's, I don't know what the temperature is where you guys are now, but we waking up to like 35 degrees in the morning right now here in Omaha, Nebraska. But get out there and vote. And a lot of people don't
And
like
educate
to
yourself
vote
on
at
what
the mid
bills are being passed
in
in
your
your
own local community. Like a lot of
yeah.
people don't take this part of voting seriously. They only take the voting when it comes to the presidents
Right.
seriously. So
But
we
the
have
president
to,
don't really got nothing to do with what happens in your local
Yep.
government.
with our local government, and in between and meantime, when it's not the official presidency votes, you still have to vote. You still have to speak up for your community, for your neighborhoods, for your city. So I'm hoping that everybody. I've been seeing a lot of people in our community, from Precious McCanson and other people, Terrence, and them advocating
Hmm.
that we make sure we get out there and vote. In these upcoming weeks. So please, everybody, get out there and vote. One way or the other, just vote. Like, we ain't telling you who to vote for.
Right.
Just vote. If
Yeah.
you don't know who to vote for, do a little research. Do a little research.